Okay. Ms. Beauchamp, ready? Welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting, 8:30 a.m. Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. City Hall Chambers at 101 Old Main Street. City Council Chambers is open to the public. All are welcome to attend this meeting. Social distancing and screening will be enforced. Any member of the public wishing to come may do so at this meeting. This time we'll ask Mrs. Barnaby to do our invocation. Thank you. Please stand.
You are invited to join us in prayer. Creator of us all and God of truth, enlighten us now as we meet together so that we each have a clear understanding of the issues we need to discuss. Give us clarity on our purpose for this meeting and what objectives we should accomplish in it. May these objectives keep us on track, and may they bond us together with a common goal. May these objectives drive each of us to actively participate rather than just passively listen. And may this meeting be lively and productive, and may the outcomes bring us together as a community. And together let the people say, Amen.
Join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call the meeting to order. Mrs. Beauchamp.
Good morning. We have no proclamations this morning, and we have no presentations.
All right. We're at citizen comments. This will be citizen comments accepted at this time on any non-agenda items. Comments will be accepted as a public hearing and agenda items at the appropriate time. And when you come forward, please state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. First, we have Susie Copeland.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council.
Morning.
Came forward today, it's because I want to do a personal thanks to all of the mayor and the City Council for attending Earth Day over at Ward Temple. It did my heart really good to see the representation from this Bradenton City Council present and hardworking. The mayor, I noticed him, and he was constant like a little bee back and forth. And so I appreciate, it did my heart good to see that level of participation in something that is going on in the community. Councilman Sanders used the hoe diggers to help our job make it a little easier in doing the planting. So thank you all for being out and participating in that. And that's really what I wanted to say. And I wanted to also acknowledge and thank you for the CCRA's contribution to making this event a great success. I saw it as very successful. And the community, to also thank the community for coming out and participating in this worthwhile event. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for all you do. All right, as we get the podium clean, Glenn Jebelina.
So I wanted to kind of mirror what Susie said. Absolutely amazing. I want to address the shortages of the Sadowski funds that, of course, have been robbed by the legislation, and if we've kicking around any ideas of how to make up that difference. I want to thank the chief for sending a few folks to the military ball. I did attend that, and hopefully we can expand that to more first responders. It was a very successful event, and I want to thank the chief. Nobody got hurt yesterday in the crash. I was reading about that this morning. And I would like this board to consider moving the CRA back to its original daytime following these meetings. It's just an inconvenience, at least for me. You know, I live up by University. To get done with this meeting, drive all the way home, or hang out here till 1:30 for maybe a 20-minute meeting. So I think it would serve the community better if you'd consider that, putting it back right after this meeting, so I can at least get a half a day's work in. So I have to tell you, the participation of this Earth Day was phenomenal. I was Wasn't there all day. I was there part of the day. I had to do some other stuff at some other houses. But I have to tell you, what a collaboration effort. We got Bill sweating out there too. The mayor was sweating. Everybody was sweating. But I want to tell you, dollar for dollar, you guys got the best bang for the buck. I mean, what did it cost you, 10 grand? You had 100 volunteers. I mean, where else are you going to get 500%, 1,000% return on your money? If you were to just take the labor, even at minimum wage, of all those folks, and include your time, you should be doing this several times a year. So my hat's off to you on that. And that actually did complement, you know, I've been involved with War Temple for a couple years now, and I went to them about a community garden. So when they came with the pollinator garden, it just complemented everything that we're trying to do over there to be more self-sufficient, to do rainwater harvesting. And I did some earth boxes with the kids from school a year ago today, actually. And I will tell you, we now have a food forest that is up and running. We have bananas, we have papaya, we have cranberry hibiscus, moringa, Cuban oregano, ginger, all doing very well. So that garden is going to complement that. And the other thing I want to bring up is, I think I mentioned this to the mayor and Bill, a water spigot. Really, there's nothing on that side of the road to drag for Pastor Sykes to drag that hose every day, and it's about 100 feet from the church. You can see, you know, the spigot is there, and they got to drag it here. And there has been houses over there, so I know the infrastructure's there. If we can get a water spigot.
Taken care of, Glenn.
Oh, well, wonderful. I don't even have to ask. Anyways, thanks for coming out. It was a great event.
Okay, we're going to go to consent agenda, but we have a couple of comments from citizens before we go to the consent agenda items. Susie Copeland?
The only item that I really wanted to address was the affordable housing inventory list. And I spoke with Glenn, and there is a list out. I just only saw the one property, and so I will be asking Carl for that, the list of the inventory, so that I was not aware that the inventory list had been made. I know it came before City Council some months back, and so the list is now compiled, and so I just wanted a copy of that inventory list for affordable housing. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Glenn actually has two questions on the consent agenda.
Is that a total of 3 minutes or 3 minutes each?
Mr. Attorney?
Typically, it's 3 minutes each.
Right.
And that's the way the county does it.
It's fine, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the first one I want to talk about is the budget. Let's talk about 6A first. So on that ordinance for the, where we spent the money, I went over last year's, and, you know, we gave money to Salvation Army. We have the CARES Fund now, so perhaps we don't have to spend that. But really, my concern is of this $432,000. Again, I went off of last year. I'm just trying to be more
Excuse me,
insightful.
Mr. Mayor,
What are
this
you
is
talking-
the regular agenda item.
Yeah,
Right.
We're in consent agenda
we're
right
consent
now.
agenda 5.
Isn't that a consent agenda?
No,
No, 5A is what we're talking about now.
Oh,
5A through F.
B.
so 6 isn't on there?
6 is regular agenda.
I'm really confused. Okay, I'll talk about 5A. So 5A is the surplus property. Thank God we're moving in that direction, I have to tell you. I just want to bring up that, according to the ordinances, that we can, and you in fact can, sell that to a developer, just like you did, Bill Isley, with the Pocket Community. This property has been vacant for 18 years. I'm glad we're finally getting it on the list. That property would make a great little pocket community. It's a wide lot, it's a deep lot. I will be bringing some investors to the table here to give you our ideas. But rentals, we are really short of rentals. I'm just afraid that the list price, I was just reading in the paper, went up to $398 is the average price. That is not average. Even at HUD standards, at a $192 is not average. That reach from affordable housing to market rate is getting farther and farther apart. Our millenniums, as you know, I'm on the board of the county. They want to rent. Just like you got 920 going up, they want to rent. So I think with a smaller footprint, you can put something in there very tastefully, and you've got that albatross to the north of it, so I would suggest something like a 2-story, but a smaller footprint. These millenniums, they can live in a 400 or 500, 600 square foot house. There's no question they want a place to store their bicycle and go to work, and that's about it. So I think this giving the lots away and building 3-2s and 2,500 square houses is not the trend. You have retirees that are downsizing their homes. They're getting out of their bigger homes. They can live in something smaller. This would be a great project for the first responders. I talked to Carl a couple years ago on this project as a first responder village, but it can be tastefully done. It can complement the neighborhood. I think we need to be moving in the direction of I call it the missing middle, townhomes and triplexes. You got the high rises and you got the single family. Well, we're the missing middle. Google it, you'll find a lot of information. This would be part of the solution on that lot. So hopefully you'll consider that. And again, I'm all about pocket communities. I think it could be tastefully done, and smaller is better. I think even studio apartments would rent. There's no question in my mind that if think about it, 60,000 students between USF, my daughter goes to State College of Florida, not one dormitory. They would love this. They would love a 400-foot studio, and you could put several of those on that lot. Plenty of room for parking in the back. So we'll come back to the board with some ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion on consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda A through G.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Councilwoman Coker. Any further discussion? Start the vote in Ward 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2.
Yes.
Carries unanimously. All right, now we're going to the second reading, or Mrs. Beauchamp, I'm sorry. Jumping ahead of you there.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Next, under business advertising, petitions, hearings, and communications, we have the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 3077. An ordinance of the City of Bradenton, Florida, extending the temporary moratorium on the offering for hire of motorized scooters or micromobility devices, or issuance of any authorizations, permits, or franchises pertaining to micromobility, adopted pursuant to Ordinance 3055 and extended pursuant to Ordinance 3062 and Ordinance 3074, and providing that said moratorium shall remain in effect until November 14th, 2021, or shall terminate on the effective date of the city's adoption of an ordinance to regulate motorized scooters or micromobility devices. And again, this is the second reading and public hearing. We'll be asking for a vote on this today.
Mr. Rudisil?
Mr. Mayor, council members, good morning. So this is the ordinance extending the scooter moratorium again to November. Obviously, we're anticipating that we might have an ordinance in place before that, so it would end whenever we adopt an ordinance regulating the scooters. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions before we go to public hearing? All right, seeing no questions, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance 3077? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Chair will call for a vote or a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 3077.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to go forward on ordinance 3077 by Mr. Sanders and seconded by Mrs. Coachman.
Brent.
Yes, question?
Well, I just wanted to, so we know what we're doing. This is basically just extending the moratorium that we've had in place because we've not yet chose or gone down the road of, we believe we're probably working towards choosing a single, this is yet to be determined, but a single provider, and this keeps our safety valve in check to do so.
That's correct. We're anticipating an ordinance coming forward. The one that was presented was for a single provider. But yes, that ordinance would come forward, and when that ordinance is adopted, that would remove the moratorium.
So even though this is for 6 months, we might do it in less time, in which case the moratorium would expire.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also the committee that we asked to start meeting to come up with ideas has met and is going through the process. I think we've met once so far. Yes, okay. All right, so any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 4,
Yes.
5. Yes. 1.
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, now I think this is probably where Mr. Gibolino wants to talk to the part. So go to citizen comment.
Mr. Mayor, we have a public hearing for this item, for the
Okay.
CDBG item.
Okay, so should we go and have him talk in the public hearing part?
If
That's
that's,
the best way? Okay, so, all right. So, Mrs. Beauchamp?
yes, next under Planning and Community Development, we have a public hearing for the CDBG projected uses of funds for the 2021-2022 program year.
Okay, did we want to get any staff comments before, or Scott, do we need to?
That's Robin's name.
It's Robin, but get her comments before the public hearing?
Yes, that'd be my recommendation. If staff has any comments, let them make them and then open it for public hearing.
Robin and Vicky? Good morning.
Good morning. Robin Singer, Planning and Community Development Director, here with Vicki Smith, White, excuse me. I worked with Vicki Smith before. Here to present the budget proposal for the CDBG funds coming in your next fiscal year. Did want to note for the record that under the public notice, there was pretty consistent on the dates with the exception of the second paragraph where it says 2021, and that should be 21-22 on that public notice. But Vicki, I believe, has indicated that these are fairly consistent with prior years. The administrative costs I can speak to appear to be consistent. It's 1.5 code officers and Ms. White's salaries that are covered under the CDBG funds. And
Well,
Vicki-
actually, the code enforcement is a project. It doesn't come out of the admin funds.
Right.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you. All right, so we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak?
For the record, Glenn Gibolina. So we have $432,000, and I had asked some questions about what are we going to spend for transitional housing. I don't see that in there. I just see code enforcement and administration, and I guess here's the problem I have with this whole thing is you ask us for what you want us to do, and then you don't address it. So I sent you all this in an email last night. So what are we doing for transitional housing? What are we doing for homeless vets? And this is $435,000, so again, it's almost $200,000 in code enforcement administration. I thought there was a cap on the administration of 10% like most grants are. I could be wrong. But the code enforcement should come out of general funds. I mean, that money could be well spent with all the housing needs that we need. And last year, okay, you spent $87,000 for administration for basically writing 3 checks. You wrote $25,000 to Meals on Wheels, you gave Habitat $200,000, and you put 2 people on payroll. I mean, that seems to me bad governance on the amount of money, $87,000, to do a few items like this. Now, if Habitat wanted 25 separate checks, I might be able to go along with that. But to take that kind of money out of 435,000, the code enforcement needs to come out of general fund. That's part of operating the government. And if the code enforcement, these officers, do go out and find fines, and those fines come back, then they should go back in this fund. You don't do that. We pay code enforcement, they collect fines, goes back in the general funds, not re-nourishing this grant money. That's a bad business model. I mean, they should be able to pay their way, and any fines they do collect should be going back to this. But code enforcement should come out of general funds. I think $200,000 on a $435,000 grant is excessive. I think that money could be well spent on the needs of the people that I have yet to get an answer on one of my questions. And what exactly are we going to spend the 2021, 22 funds for? This is more important. So if you can divert and at least get the administration fee down to 10%, I mean, that's typically what it is. Tops. The county has sometimes 5% if it's a large amount. But they should be able to do this job for $40,000 all day long. So I think the administration is excessive. I don't think code enforcement funds should be coming out of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I tend to agree with Glenn. Vicki or Robin, would you like to, either one or both, address this as to why that nearly half of the funds is going to administration and code enforcement? That does seem a little excessive.
You're allowed 20% of the grant for admin. Admin is not writing 3 checks a year CBI. Admin is ongoing technical assistance to the subrecipients. It is writing this annual plan. It is writing the performance report. It is monitoring these subrecipients to make sure they're spending the money the way that they said they would spend it. It is reviewing every one of those payment requests when they're submitted to make sure that they have the correct documentation in order for us to pay them. If we just hand out checks, say, see you bye, and things are not done according to Cdbg program regulations, the city is on the hook for repaying that money. And it doesn't come out of your grant funds, it comes out of your general revenue. As far as the code enforcement fines are concerned, the Cdbg program allows those fines to go back as general revenue funds. They don't come back to the program. That's not in the regulations.
Okay.
I have a question. So you monitor these funds throughout the year. Do you file reports for verification back to that, for example, let's say the Gulf Coast Legal Services, 23,000, you see that those have been handed out to individuals, and do you have a report that you have to file?
Yes, they actually submit quarterly reports to me, but what they do is each time they submit a request for payment, we're paying them for services, which actually means we're paying attorney salaries. So what they have to do is tell me how many people they assisted each month using our funds. They will be monitored to make sure that they have done their homework and that these are low and moderate income residents.
Right.
And they're also city residents.
Right. At one time, we had a little issue with that,
Yes, we did.
and so.
And we pulled the funding.
And we pulled the funding because there wasn't being handled correctly. And just example, that the 10 families of Salvation Army, you make sure that there is verified that there is 10 families, and
Yes.
so is in your defense, is this out of line with how other cities or anybody appropriates administration and code enforcement?
But administration, no, not all jurisdictions cover code enforcement out of CDBG funding. They do cover projects. Entities submit, when we put out a notice of funding availability, then entities can apply for these funds for activities. And we went over some of those applications, what was it, like the beginning of this month?
So you're saying that we could take code enforcement out of there and then give it to other entities, but then, of course, the city would have to pick up the tab for the code enforcement, the
Exactly.
100,000, and that's, you know, is that Carl may want to weigh in on that too?
Originally, we've had a portion of our code under CDBG for quite a while. When we expanded code enforcement, which we have significantly more than this 1.5 people, the general fund picked up the difference for all the expanded code enforcement, and this amount had remained in the general fund. It's like everything else. Yes, if you want to take this money out and add it to the general fund, you certainly can do that. Now we're starting to look for other funds. This gets in line with everything else as to what kind of presence are we going to have. It's now competing with every other use in the general fund for that. We wanted a beefed up presence. We wanted a little bit of extra in the CDBG area. That's why we funded it this way.
Well, we're looking on the Affordable Housing Committee, which I serve, is we're looking for more funding, and this would be one avenue to capture some of it. Would that not be true?
It's like everything else. Yes, it can.
I know,
can be.
I know.
It certainly
you
can
100
be.
here, you has to pick it up somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the decision. So are we mandated to vote on this today, or is this, can we discuss it further?
We can discuss it further. This is a public hearing at this point.
Okay. I suggest that we discuss it further in.
We're in the public hearing right now, so we'll have
Okay.
comments when that
Okay.
closes.
All right.
So thank you. Thank you, Vicki. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments? Thank you. Please state your name.
Susie Copeland again. I retired from the city of Bradenton. I retired working a number of those years with the Community Development Block Grant Program. And the structure that we use is totally different than what is being used today. It was in-house in terms of housing rehabilitation. We did provide some funding to other recipients like Salvation Army, but very few funds. At that time, we paid for 2 code enforcement officers that worked primarily in the CDBG area, low to moderate income neighborhoods. The city also had additional code enforcement officers that worked citywide. So it has been for a number of years, is how that was set up. I think at this day and time, because the funding has decreased significantly for CDBG funds, funding streams throughout the country. That's just the way it is. Maybe we need to look at revisiting how we administer the CDBG funds. The status quo may not be what we need in the 21st century. I looked at the funding recommendation, Meals on Wheels for low-income seniors, the food nutritional program, Salvation Army, Gulf Coast Legal Services. And while those are truly needed, when we have homeowners that are living, and we did give to the Habitat for Humanity $168,000 for housing rehab, and that's what I'm calling it, the rehab program. Those programs were years ago administered through the CDBG program. We had a rehab specialist who did all of the contractual work, working with the homeowner as well as the contractor, developing the contractor, working with the homeowner to see that those necessary repairs were done to their home. I don't know how many houses are being done in the city of Bradenton at this juncture. I really don't know. I've not been on top of it. But I think that as a community, and I know of one lady, and she said it was that had her house done, and it was through Habitat for Humanities. So to me, that was, and I did not realize that Habitat was receiving the rehabilitation funds from the CDBG program. While I'm not saying right, wrong, and different, I don't know. But I think maybe we need to look at, because the funds are scarce, and we need maybe to look at some alternative areas, and just to make sure that those 1.5 code officers are working within the low to moderate income neighborhoods. That's critical. Thank you.
Councilman Roth?
Yeah, thank you. This is all a good discussion, and
Are we still in the public
Oh,
hearing?
with public hearing,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Didn't have- Any further public hearing? Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilman Roth?
so, yeah, as I said, this is all good discussion, and we're about ready to start talking about the budget. So this could be something we can revisit as we're looking at the general fund budget soon. But the one thing I want to point out that when we did our consent agenda, the one property that we have here, 1105 18th Street West, 18th Avenue West, Street West. You know, this area, it was said that we need more rentals. And this area here, this is the bottom central portion of Ward 3. It's loaded with rentals. It's some of the, if you want to talk about affordable housing, it's some of probably the most affordable housing in the city as rent. It's also, you look at the area just in the village and south of the village in Ward 3. And once again, it's some of the most affordable housing for rent that you can find. It's also not exactly the best kept properties in town. And my opinion is that just because someone's stuck in a rent cycle does not mean that they should have to live in squalor. And I check out the, we get a code enforcement report of, what properties are there, and I look at the addresses in Ward 3, and quite a few of the single-family homes are owned by LLCs. That means it's a rental property. And they're in violation. So I think that, I don't mind if we're going to fund this a separate way, but I do believe that we need to recognize that there's affordable, we do a lot, I think, for affordable housing in general. We try to as a government. I think we're doing probably better than any other government in Manatee County. But on top of that, we're maintaining housing, substandard housing, or rental housing that falls under that category. I know it's in Ward 3, I know it's in Ward 5, I know it's in Ward 4. I know that the code enforcement has said that that's where the problems are, and we need to keep doing it because, yes, we need affordable housing, there is affordable housing, and we have to protect the people that are living there. They would probably prefer to be a homeowner, but they do not have the financial resources to do so. So they're stuck in this situation, and we have to protect them from the persons that they're renting from sometimes. We can argue about where the money's coming from, but if these were additional officers for CDBG, it's something that we could use more code enforcement officers. I know that. So we can talk about how we're going to fund it, but I just wanted to point out that there's more to it, and actually I'm going to be talking about this property under council reports as well.
Councilwoman Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that we can always look and see how we are allocating our funds and where we choose to allocate them, that we're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. But I also wanted to say that there are code-enforced properties throughout this entire city, from Ward 1 all the way to Ward 5. You have individuals that, they may have inherited a property that they can't afford, but they don't have any place else to go, and then the property gets run down, and, it's a vicious cycle. So I don't have a problem with looking at where we have been in the past with these funds, where we're going to allocate the funds in the future. If we want to look at doing something different, I think it would be important, however, to perhaps task our planning and development director, who directly supervises the code enforcement staff, and perhaps start with them and ask them where some of the major issues are that they are seeing that we have not been able to have an impact with the funds that we've currently been spending to see, is that something where we want to try to make a difference? Does that mean taking code enforcement out and putting more money in either housing rehab or rental assistance? I'm not sure, but I think a good place to start is to talk to the boots that are on the ground and get some ideas from them as to where we may be able to spend our money more efficiently and effectively.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Mrs. Barbie, and also Mr. Roth, not realizing, when I made that statement, that we do have issues with certain properties from people renting and not maintaining their properties, and I don't think that I think we could use more code enforcement, because I see it, a lot, and it's hard. And if it's a issue of it, we don't have enough people on the ground, I'd like for the planning director to tell us that and give us more insight to what's happening so that we can correct that. Because I get a lot of complaints that we don't enforce our housing codes enough, that people, have items left in their front yard, et cetera. So maybe we don't have enough going on. And I know we've always had this saying that we're the friendly city, but we shouldn't be that friendly. So I'd like to have further discussion on it, because maybe we're underfunded there.
Councilwoman Coachman?
This is all great discussion, it really is, because I was concerned as well when I looked at this. It's very well laid out, and there's definitely no doubt that our staff is not doing what they should be doing, and they could, of course, use more. But I am concerned about the CDBG funds and having as much of it as possible go into the community, the actual community, and then understanding that maybe the general fund can pick up some. But it is important, code enforcement all over the city. And it sounds like in the CDBG area, how many code enforcement officers are we talking about?
1.5.
That's what it's
1.5.
funding.
One
That's
and a
what
half.
Funding
funding.
too?
One
There's
and a half.
more.
1.5. And for the rest of the city, how many do we have?
What are there?
Well,
3.5.
the whole budget is laid out, and I mean, Robin can come
I
forward,
mean,
but.
1.5 is for CDBG.
That's just the funding part of it. It's a budget item, the way things are split up with the money. But when you look at things, if there needs to be more code enforcement in a certain area, I'm sure they go to where the need is at the time. It's not spread out just because of that.
Right.
Yes, Robin Singer. Yeah, we do have 1.5 code officers dedicated to the CDBG area, and it actually is one officer full-time on CDBG. And there is a reporting requirement with anything associated with CDBG, so they are producing quarterly reports on their code enforcement activities in the CDBG area. And we can produce and share those reports, as well as talk about other measures. We are talking with the CRA also about a targeted approach, code enforcement, because they work with police and we work with code enforcement, and so we can look at ways to both promote other activities such as home improvement loans, as well as the sort of the carrot and stick approach, and enforcing on certain specific codes. We want to start meeting with neighborhood associations and talking about what they're seeing happening out there and what really needs to be our focus as far as code enforcement is concerned.
But if I may ask, so how many code enforcement officers do we have all
We
total?
total 4,
4.
yeah.
Mr. Sanders?
Report we get, is that citywide, or is that just the report that comes off of the?
It's specifically for CDBG. I mean, we
Okay.
can give you all of the code enforcement
All right,
activities,
so
but-
Mr. Roth's comment that most of it is over there is we're only seeing part of it. I didn't realize that.
When Volker sends out his report to you, that's citywide.
That's citywide? Okay.
But he has a separate.
But there's a separate one.
For CDBG.
Yeah, maybe we need to see that too.
Thank you. One of the things that we have to remember, because it's all great discussion, and probably 8 years ago when I was Ward 2, that was probably The first part of it was the most activity that I got working on and talking with Volker and going through things. But what we have to remember is it's easy to say, well, we take that $100,000 away from there, but it's going to have to be replaced from somewhere else. So we have two choices. We raise taxes or we cut services. Because if we take it from one place, we have to find it for another. And the same people we're helping in one way, we could be hurting in another way because, depending on how the budget works, it's really it's a fine tuning. And I think our administration over the years has really worked to say what's the best bang for the buck. And obviously I've heard for 8.5 years now, tell us what you want and they'll do it. So the staff will do what the council wants, but you also have to it's going through the budget process right now. I'm going through the legislative budget. Carl and I met yesterday going through some things, trying to streamline that, and whether we talked about $50 or $5,000, it all adds up, and when we're going through it. So that's going to be coming to us real soon. Councilwoman Coker?
Yeah, I had the first initial reaction about how much was going into administrative, but Ms. White did a great job explaining that, and I think that administrative is making sure that the part that's going into the community is going in right and it's gonna have more bang for the buck. So she I feel like it's where it should be. But I'm always willing to look at everything
And those fees.
and consider.
Come into the general fund, though, correct?
I'm sorry?
Code enforcement, when they,
Oh, the code enforcement, right. Councilman Roth?
Yeah, I've spent the bulk of my time, one of the biggest issues I deal with is code enforcement. I do know in the CRA, we've talked about this, we have a small amount going into code enforcement from the CRA. We've talked about different things that we can do. When I said that there was issues in wards 3, 4, and 5, I know that there's also issues in 2 and 1, but what I see the difference is somewhere around 26th Street, there is right in the middle of Ward, probably about Wares Creek, the percentage of rentals versus home ownership changes. And the areas that I'm talking about are mostly rental. And for some strange reason, that affects the neighborhood adversely. That, I noticed, I just walked around last night, I noticed a block in my area where it just took a couple of rentals to drag a whole neighborhood down. The whole street has literally, the dynamics of that street over the course of 5 years is now really noticeably worse, just from a couple of properties. And when you've got an area that is mostly rentals, the standard is so low that for it to go to the gutter is not very far. And that's what I'm talking about is, we have to fight. There's something in policing called the broken window effect, where you got to get in front of it. Well, unfortunately, when you let the broken window effect go, and all the windows are broken, it no longer counts. It's now down down to the point to where, a bad home in a nice neighborhood stands out. A bad home in a neighborhood that's all bad doesn't stand out at all, so the level goes down. So I do agree. I'm not saying that we don't have problems citywide, and we're down to 4 officers. I believe there should be more than that. And rather than pulling money out of here, I almost think that when we get around to budgets, we should look at another officer and how we're going to fund that, or 2, because I think that it's a standard of living that the whole city deserves, and we do need to protect good neighborhoods. Because we do not want to. Having a good neighborhood go bad is much harder to fix than keeping it good, believe me. But we can't just write off the bad neighborhoods because it's like, well, it's just the way it's always been. Well, I think we can do better. I don't know what the solution is here. I'm just saying I do know that this is an issue. I know that code enforcement's an issue. I know from our CRA director that the code enforcement has said where the worst problems are, the worst of the worst, and they're 3, 4, and 5. That's not to say you don't have problems and we have to deal with that, because we do have to deal with that. But it's a sticky wicket, and we've got to fund it, like Mr. Brown said, because I know it's pretty easy to say we're going to transfer that $100,000, but at the cost of something else. And if we're gonna do that, I'd almost like to put another officer on.
Councilwoman Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel like y'all are going to change my name to, from Mary Ann Barnaby to Gina Gallo, because here I am up here thinking historically and sharing historic stuff. I remember a time when we had a code enforcement board, and now we have a magistrate. But one of the things that we worked on was the fact that we had many individuals in the city that owned rental property, and they were obviously making money on it, because if they weren't making money, they weren't going to hold on to it. And that was one of the things that we focused on, was if you had someone in front of the city because of a code enforcement issue, if it was a homesteaded property, if it was someone who, an elderly woman whose husband had died and he was the handyman and she didn't know what to do, there's a difference with that versus someone that owns 20 or 30 properties and they don't keep any of them up. And perhaps we ought to send a signal out to those property owners that if you are in the city of Bradenton and you have properties, and obviously if you're holding on to them, you've made money in the past. You may not be making it right now because of what we've been through with the pandemic, but you're hoping to make money again. This is the time to be proactive and to take a good look at your property and see if, are you helping the city and are you helping the people that live there? If you're not part of the solution, how was that commercial, that old commercial from the 60s go? If you're not part of the solution, maybe you're part of the problem. And maybe we need to send that signal that code enforcement is going to be looking at these properties seriously.
And I think one of the things that we have to really think about is, one man's art is another man's junk and how it looks. And obviously, the way all of us look at our individual situations is going to be different, but that's also going to be important, because I don't believe, and Robin can correct me if I'm wrong, that we can just start doing things to one person and the person next to it thinks, well, that person, I'm getting a special privilege and this one's not, if we started doing code enforcement. If we're going to believe.
Spot code enforcement does not work.
Right, but I believe if we're going to do code enforcement, we have to be 100% bought in, and you're going to find properties that you could probably go to every property in this city and find something wrong with it if you wanted to. So it's more about education, and it's more about working with people to get things better. Because again, if we start in Ward 1, everybody's going to be yelling in Ward 1. If we start in Ward 5, they're all going to be yelling in Ward 5. So, it's about that. And again, it's going to come down, budget time. What do you want to do? And I ask all along, there's some budgeting things that I asked from day one that we know we need more in public works. We know we need more in other departments. But at what cost and what consequences are we going to have? So we're coming right into the right time to do that. But getting back to the CDBG, I don't know that we're going to solve this issue on this today. So I believe we need a motion to move forward on this CDBG project use of funds for 2021-2022 program year. So do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion if I can ask, after I make the motion, if there's a second, if Ms. White can come forward.
Sure, so we have a motion to
I have a
approve.
motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Barnaby?
Yes, Ms. White, could you come forward, please?
Who seconded?
Coker. Jane?
I'm just saying, is it approval of it today? Because it still remains open until the 23rd.
Yes, while you're doing your deliberations, one thing you might want to keep in mind is that this is part of our consolidated plan and annual plan that has to be to HUD by August 16th, which means the final plan has to be adopted by you by the end of July at the latest. If we don't get it to HUD by August 16th, we don't get any money. Well, you've been down that road before.
So Vicki, what you're approving today is the projected use, not the final use?
Just projected. Actually, it's really just a public hearing.
It's your, yeah, there's no real action that has to be taken today.
Right. So staff is just looking for direction today.
Yes. And public comment.
So do we need to have a motion on it? We don't?
So just- Okay, so,
Okay, well then, Mr. Mayor, I'll rescind my motion, and I want to thank Ms. White for two things. One is, you answered every question I had just coming up, and I appreciate that very much. And I also wanted to commend you on offering the information in both English and Spanish. I think that's very important in our community, and I want to say how much I appreciate you doing that.
Oh, thank you.
okay, any other questions? Mr. Callahan?
I think, that, and the thanks, I'd like to thank both folks. 'Cause we have Vicki, it's pretty awesome that we have both Vicki and Susie here, who have been our CDBG folks for well past any time I can remember. So thanks to them, because this is not an easy job when you're working with the CDBG and SHIP. You get pushed and pulled a lot of different directions. You think you're doing a lot of good by getting the money out there and finding that your sub-recipients are less than responsive to you, which gets very difficult. So I want to thank them both for have done this job for a long time for the city of Bradenton.
All right, so we'll just heard the discussion, and we'll keep moving forward till we have to finally approve it before August. Thank you. Mr. Callahan?
As soon as I find my item, I'll be right with you. The next item is a request from the Fuller Cultural Group. We also know them as the Players. Janine was up here a few weeks ago talking about the issues associated with the Players and what they're doing to try to maintain our operations during a very difficult time with the pandemic. It has been probably amongst the hardest hit groups, are groups very similar to the Players that are these cultural groups when they're dependent upon their patrons and they can't have shows and they can't get out. It has been very difficult to maintain operations. Very fortunate they have maintained operations, done I think some extraordinary other things that they were looking to be able to rely on for funding that just kind of fell apart the same time as the pandemic did. So I think they're very ingenious as to how they go about their business. But that being said, we do have a note with them. You know, we did lend them money on the parking lot acquisition and working on getting the new parking lot. And with that, they'd signed a loan agreement and a note. For the first 2 years, it was a 2% note. After that, it had 2 potential renewal options available to it. They took advantage of those renewal options during that time frame. We had set the rate to be at prime rate, which was seemingly a decent rate until such time as you realized that prime rate went up and nothing else did. Went up to what's been a high of the 5.5, which is seemingly unheard of rate now, and down to 3.25% for their second year of their loan option. They come to us requesting some relief, okay? And I understand that they paid their accrued interest as required, but this has been very difficult at this point in time. The request is for several different items. One is, and I think I put them in an order that seems to make sense. Extend the current note, okay, for 3 additional years to give them the opportunity to get their funding back in order for accrued interest, also to line up people and opportunities to make sure they can pay the loan off at the appropriate time, because that's the intent. It's not to be a forever loan, it's intended to be paid off. So extend the current note for 3 additional years. Set the interest rate during the extension at the 2% rate, which was the rate of the original loan, was at 2% per year. We look at a 2% rate. Back when we did it was probably our cost of funds. What we earn on our money being out there, that's always critical. If we're going to lend people the money, to us it's a trade-off. It's cash sitting out there, whether we put it in an investment or we put it in the opportunity to receive funds from somebody else. Currently, our return on investable funds is 1% or less. It is just atrocious to us, but the opportunity to keep this at 2, I think, is a reasonable request based on the original note being 2% and what we're receiving on our funds. And with the prospects of those interest rates being not much higher for the immediate future, certainly, they're talking a year or two before they're seeing a huge rate in Fed funds, which is what some of these things are based off of. They're asking for a retroactive change, meaning where they had those 2 extensions at the prime rate, they're requesting that those could be reduced to the same 2%. Okay, there is no requirement to do this. It is just a request of you to be able to help them, because I think the intent is they want to be able to pay that accrued interest right away. So I put the numbers in there. It went from $201,000 of accrued interest that is due and payable in May to the interest that would be due and payable would be $92,000. And the fourth thing is to move the annual due date. End of operations, end of season is usually, we said May 3rd, allows them to accumulate funds from a season and pay all of these accrued interest and items on June 30th. Not to extend them any further out, it's a 45-day, or about a 45-day, 50-day movement out as to when these funds are due and payable. The accrued interest is due and payable annually. I think they'd like to catch up, get that paid immediately if we are good with these adjustments, and then move forward on a regular schedule. Janine is here, I think, to address probably further, I think maybe the issues that she's encountered. This request is coming from them and through their board. And we have provided a modification of note, which is you have 2 different things. You have an original note in your packet, you had, and then a modification of the note. And modification would incorporate all of these changes if you so desire. And the key, one other thing is when we went into this agreement, we wanted to make sure the city was protected, so we do hold a mortgage on that site. So,
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Callahan?
What was the original loan for?
2.3 million.
No, I mean,
To redo the acquisition of property where their parking lot is across the street.
to acquire it?
Yes, to acquire that, yep. And then to redo it. They had some of their own funds. It was more than just a $2 million project to acquire it and redo the parking, or do the parking lot, not redo it. There's stormwater in there, there's a lot of things associated with it.
I was gonna say, because
it's underground.
the acquisition wasn't,
No, it was,
And one of the benefits to the city was it opened up the parking lot to the east of them to the city residents, so they weren't filling up that lot.
yeah, one of the agreements was when we did this loan, originally we had built the parking lot to the east of the railroad tracks. Part of that was for the players. And when we did this loan, that released that back 100% back to the public.
right, for the,
Yeah, just to point out, this isn't out of, I remember, Carl, you and I worked together on this when the Players site was originally acquired through the partners.
Yes.
You were the negotiator for that, and I compliment you on that. So, and then I remember at that time, we had a deal where there was an agreement where we said if you pay it off in 5 years, can you remind me what that was? Because there was a note, and then there was a clause that said.
That was the difference for releasing the lot. Originally, the note was I believe 2.7 million.
That one we paid off.
Yeah, I know, I just wanted to remind everyone.
And in which case, then it reduced to 2.3 when this happened and freed up the lot across the railroad tracks to become a $2.3 million note. So,
But we had an agreement, a loan, and then we said, but if you pay it off in 5 years, we forego.
well, that's what we did forego from 2.7, I think, down to 2.3.
I'm not talking about this deal, I'm talking about the original acquisition of the Players.
Oh, well, we didn't do anything as far as
There was-
paying of the players. We pushed Braden Riverfront Partners to donate that land
Yeah.
to the players.
Okay, Jeannie's actually remembers what I'm talking about.
Yes, so as Councilman Roth is talking about, When we got the land from the Bradenton Riverfront Partners, there was a clause with Cora May Stone's money of $2.5 million. And the city of Bradenton provided us a line of credit of $2.3 million. And yes, there was a clause that as long as we paid it off within 5 years, the city would deed us the property, and we did do so. That first note the city extended to us in a form of a line of credit was paid off. This particular note we're talking about came after that.
Yes.
It was after the success of being open for 2 years, and we definitely realized, and I know that many of you who were on the board at that time received phone calls, that there wasn't enough parking for the success of the Performing Arts Center. And to Councilman Sanders' question, the total infrastructure was about $5 million, because we did vault the water underneath. That's why you don't see any retention ponds across the street. So we made an investment in all of the infrastructure underneath the property in hopes that one day, you know, down the line when it's amenable to the city, we could do something mixed use across the street, and that we wouldn't just have a blank parking lot. We do appreciate from the Board of Directors and Florida Cultural Group, Manatee Performing Arts Center, that you taking this under consideration. It would greatly help us continue to move forward with our mission.
And so my point was, this isn't the first time we've used creative financing to help assist you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for correcting that, Patrick. All I was thinking was focused on this one.
And I just want to have one question for you, Janine. Since this pandemic's hit, obviously, a lot of things have changed in our city, county, country, world, whatever. But you've also adjusted to where you're having events in the parking lot through Realize Bradenton that wouldn't be able to be happening if they were on our Riverwalk like they were before. So it's a good partnership that you have through Realize Bradenton with the city. So it's something that it hasn't just stopped existence. You've been continuing to work, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So from a staff perspective, we would be recommending approval based on those terms and conditions. We think that they are reasonable. We think that they work for this group. We don't think that it's giving funds away. They've honored their commitments up to this point, and I think, and actually pretty admirably been able to survive during the pandemic. So, so that's.
So does Chair hear a motion?
I'm going to motion to approve the Florida Cultural Group Manatee Players note modification.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. We'll get that executed and get it over to them.
Ms. Beauchamp?
We have no unfinished business at this time.
All right, council reports. We'll start in Ward 3.
Okay, the property on the consent agenda, 1105 18th Street West, the property to the north of it is a horrible, horrible code enforcement situation. The guy is not moving vehicles off his property, he's moving them on. We now have 2 tractor trailers sitting over there. We used to have 1. Now there's 2. They're being used for storage. And he throws camo netting over it so we don't see it. So, you know, something's got to be done. I mean, look, I remember I was opposed to, there was a time when the flavor of this movement was to take away fines, to cap fines at $75,000. This guy at that point had $186,000, I think, racked up. So we did him a favor. He hasn't gotten better, he's gotten worse. I don't know what we're gonna do. This guy's out of control, you know. So many things I could say, but
He
I'm
was
not.
in front of the magistrate at the last meeting. I'm not sure of the results of that, but his property was in front of code
He's been under the
enforcement.
magistrate. He's
I
been under
understand, but
code
I'm
enforcement.
not sure of the results of that last meeting. It's the property next door. It's to the owner, yes.
All right, so
mean-
obviously, planning will keep working and seeing what we can do
But
to,
this
next
is bad.
steps, yeah.
I inherited this from Michelle Weaver. It's not getting better. I'd like to get this dealt with before my term, You know, I don't know if we're gonna have to declare the guy mentally incompetent or what. I mean, something's gonna have to happen here.
That might happen a lot more around here than. you
He's
think.
not mentally incompetent, he's outsmarted us.
Well, I don't, you know.
I think, Mr. Rudisil, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to make a couple notes. First of all, on the, some of the activities occurring on the city lot that's
Correct.
next door, right? And so we have sent one final warning letter. What's that?
He's moved it off
Oh, he has? Okay,
to his house next
Yeah,
door.
it's consolidated next door.
okay. So
I think he moved it into the second tractor trailer.
So at least we've gotten we've gotten the city lot cleared, so now we can move forward with what the council wants to do there. On the other, is that a homesteaded piece?
I don't know, because it's
Okay.
under, I don't, because the name it's under, it's hard to tell.
All right, so we have engaged a firm to pursue foreclosing on our code enforcement liens. So that is certainly something that we could move forward with as it relates to that lot. My recollection is that property is owned in an LLC, which means I won't have homestead protection.
May not be, I know the guy.
Okay. So we can look at all those things.
Any other?
No.
Council? All right, Mr. Sanders?
Only item I have is I've received numerous emails and phone calls about our new extension of Riverwalk in the park, and one that concerned me that was sent to me and the mayor originally, and now has been sent to all council people from a individual that at one time I believe sued the city, and she's concerned that we did the grand theft of the park, and that we are changing the historical standing of that park through another entity, and I have some concerns of why some of that is happening, and I'd like to have the council's input since they now have been addressed this.
I don't know what he's talking about.
We were,
It came a while.
you didn't, I assumed you, you just didn't read the email?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't remember it. If you would be a little more specific, it
Okay.
would be helpful.
Okay, I'll just read it. In 2006, the park's natural spring was designated a Florida natural spring by the Florida Geological Survey of Natural Springs. Also, the park's giant black bead tree growing next to the spring was put on the National Registry of Big Trees in 2007. Near the park is another state historical marker commemorating the site of Josiah Gates' home and a 20-room, 3-story building known as the Gates House. Historical records show Gates constructed the larger building to serve as a hotel of sorts for new arriving settlers and visitors. And it says, realize Bradenton is removing our historical standing.
Well, first off, I think that plaque, though, isn't that at a different property down the street? It's not on that
Yeah, I
area?
don't think it was on this site.
No, it's a different site that they're talking about there.
But I think overall, we had worked, realize Bradenton is not doing anything to this site. Now, I just want to make sure that's clear. They're not doing anything. All they were doing was help arrange the public comment as to what people wanted to see or thought they wanted to see. Overall, through the plan, we are absolutely retaining the historical nature of that park through working with Reflections, all the future things up on instead of those old wooden signs that said the history, they're looking to replace new signs that reflect that history. I think the marker, and I'm not even sure if that's the same marker, Jim, we're talking about, the Glazer Gates marker. It's a different one. But in any instance, any markers we have over there will be retained. Matter of fact, we're trying to do the opposite of taking away the history. Part of the whole idea of working with Reflections was to maintain the history of that park.
Well,
And
I
the
was
big
at a-
tree, and the big tree, if you recall the history of that, when they took the Glazer Gates Park, we lost control of it for the most part. Okay, and that's why we went into
You say
lawsuit.
they took it, who are you talking about?
Reflections of Manatee.
Just wanted that, Reflections ran the park for so many years.
Yes,
It's
and
not
there-
Glacier Gates, Mineral Springs.
Mineral Springs, but there was, yes, but, and that's what we're talking about, Mineral Springs.
Well, it's,
yes.
yeah, Mineral Springs.
So they ran that. So if they put a tree on a registry at that point, it would have been unbeknownst to us. And the natural spring is fine. I looked up the natural springs. Unfortunately, it may be listed as a location of a natural spring, but you look at all the natural springs that are listed in the state of Florida. It's Weeki Wachee, it's Zolfo Springs, it's all these big, beautiful springs, Silver Springs, not what we have. So, but we're still commemorating it. We're commemorating it in the way that we can. So that I think we're working diligently to maintain the history, not do what Ms. Young says. I think it's just still continues to be an attack on that, and there's not much we can. I'm not saying not much we can do. We will honor those requests. We will look at those requests. That tree is still there. I think to take a look at that tree as to the healthiness of it, and all still comes into play. The Registry of Big Trees is a not-for-profit organization that, and I looked it up, and you can register a big tree. And it tells you how to register a big tree.
Any big tree.
Yeah, there may be another registry that they are on with that, but the one that they list was, and it tells you how to go about, getting down to getting a tape measure out and measuring it, taking pictures of it and sending it to them, and they would then consider putting it in their registry. Purposely, we did not take that one down. It's still sitting there. It is not in the way of any of our planned improvements, so we continue to monitor that tree, and as well as any placards, we'll make sure that they exist where they need to exist.
So we're gonna keep that tree?
What we're doing is we walked it, we said it looks like it should come down.
Yes.
But based on the nature of the comments from the people, we said, no, we're not gonna touch it yet.
Well,
So-
that tree is not protected in any way, shape, or form under any registry, right? Like historical homes.
Like I said, it is in the registry of big trees. If there's something else, they should show it to us.
But it's a danger to our citizens in that park.
It could be considered
Because it's
not a good tree. It's not in good shape anymore.
So
It
we're
may
gonna
have
put
been
warning
15 years
signs, if we
ago.
keep the tree, we're gonna put warning signs up, stay away from this tree or something.
That's why we want to look at the tree. I know. That's why we want to look at the tree.
But that's not my major concern, is that the tree is the tree. My major concern is last week I was at the Downtown Redevelopment Committee, and I heard that we wanted to change that area, the whole area, to be called the East Riverwalk, whatever. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it because it's like, I said, are you kidding me?
It was one
You
person.
cannot do that.
It was one person on the downtown.
There was 2 or 3 that spoke up.
But Wade brought it forward. Wade is not a city representative. He's a member of the chamber. He works with Connect Bradenton. I think he thought it was a good idea. He immediately heard from you
I know.
and from Mr. Brown going,
Right.
not on our watch.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't like that talk out there because sometimes it becomes, in speaking for us.
Right.
And if I hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have, maybe Mr. Brown would have, I don't know, but circumvented that because I think that was about to gain some legs. As I heard comments around, I saw the momentum flowing, and that's what this letter's about.
And I think part of those people in that meeting, unfortunately, probably couldn't have told you where he was even talking about. They were saying,
They don't know
yeah.
where the East
They were saying,
Riverwalk
yeah.
is?
Pardon?
They don't know where
They
the
didn't
East
know what
River.
Old Manatee was.
They don't know where Old Manatee
They didn't
is.
realize that was a historic.
Historic district and antiques district, all of that already.
I corrected several of them after the meeting and said I had never heard that before.
They don't know where our heritage of our original.
I think you would find out that some do
Really?
not, yes. Remember, that's a countywide, downtown does not necessarily mean, those are people from all walks who just want to volunteer for that board who are chamber members. So,
And I think one of the things that's important is every one of us get a lot of emails. Some of them may be more relevant to city information. And in my position now, obviously, when I was on Ward 2 council person, I wouldn't answer for others unless I contacted you, and there's many times, Mr. Roth, you remember, I'd say, I got this, you say, take care of it, because somebody I know, and we all do that for each other. But as mayor, I feel obligated to answer or of some sort, because these citizens are the ones that put us in here, and, you know, they don't always get the answer they want, and sometimes when they don't get the answer they want, they continue then to bully or their way through it. So, but it's still, I will never not respond at some point. And again, it may not be exactly the answer that they want, just because, just like one man's art is another man's treasure, or trash, something there. This has happened, and I mean, there's been some things, and a lot of attention's been paid to try to fix some things that may be wrong in that area. There was some things, and I thank Jim and the chief and everybody for working and going out at 10:30 at night and different things. So sometimes they don't think we care. All of us care. It's how we do it, and I will always continue to respond in ways that I feel are appropriate to protect and to get information out for our citizens, because that's important. Mr. Roth?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Brown. When I saw that correspondence, I was a little concerned about something else that took place in that, was that that Realize Bradenton is speaking as an agent of the city on that, it appeared, making statements. Well, it from the email, and then I noticed there was a story in the newspaper where Realize Bradenton was commenting on the park as though, and having been here and realized what we did, the city council made the decision of that park taking place. City councils control the land. The city council approved the funding, for this to take place. And the city council is working with the CRA to take this place. And the CRA funds Realize Bradenton. They're just, and I bring this up because comments are being made and causing issues by a funded agency that I don't believe has the authority to be making these comments, and I'll share it, because I'm still hearing from, in the Village of the Arts, that things aren't in the tapestry. As in the tapestry is some kind of official document that was created and signed and put on a wall somewhere, that we shall follow this, and it was just an exercise, and I'm a little concerned that, a little concerned about someone acting as though they're an elected official when they're not.
And that's not, I asked when it came, those emails were coming, and I don't know if you were first copied on the beginning ones. I don't think most of the council was. I think it Mr. Sanders and I. And when I went and met with them, I asked them why they were not contacting their council person and suggested any emails that come to both of us. Then they started putting all of us on it. And, but my point with that is they started saying a lot of things about Realize Bradenton. We as a council, me included, asked Realize Bradenton to do those charrettes for us to take that part off our plate, because I went to a lot of them. I think you were at some of them. And what happened was they then thought Realize Bradenton was, and then that's where they said in this email here that it is not Realize Bradenton. But I did ask them to respond to the part that they were talking about, that they said. So they were not speaking on behalf of the city from what I interpreted. It was just answering the questions because they were the ones that ran the charrettes. And I think they had 10 or 11, Carl?
They had a bunch. I'm
Yeah,
not
they
sure
had
how
10 or
many.
11 at the
Mostly at the
First United
church.
Methodist.
I
So
remember,
they
I
weren't
remember.
talking for this council, but they were protecting the information that was got out there, because the day that I met with that group, Sunday afternoon at 3:30 a few weeks ago, they had a lot of misinformation about things that were being put out, and I was getting bashed, not as the mayor, I was getting bashed as the council person that voted to proceed with that. And I stood up and said, listen, I voted for that, and here's why, and here's what you have, and here's what you're going. They were more concerned about the apartments that were being built, which preceded all of us, or at this point, that those properties were bought and done before any of us were ever involved.
Oh, you're talking about Maggio.
Yeah, no, all of the properties when they bought them originally, because wasn't that in the early 2000s?
It was Maggio.
Right,
Yeah,
so-
that was early
yeah, so
2000s.
none of us were involved in any of that.
Right, so most of those charrettes that you call were actually controversial meetings because of the swap of the park, Glacier Gate Park, for that development. It wasn't,
No, those charrettes were specifically about what they wanted to see in the park,
the
in the
park.
in the extension,
Yeah.
in the
Extension?
extension. Yeah,
And
the
they had-
extension, the Riverwalk extension.
well, I went to
Those were at the
one in
church.
2018, and that's all I know about.
Those were at the church.
Right.
That was at the church.
And those
I
were
went to that one,
specifically,
and Kimley Horn basically did the presentation.
yeah, it was Kimley Horn and Realize Bradenton.
Well, Realized Brady may have
Just helped put it-
organized it.
they
but
had
it-
volunteers to help
they-
staff it.
They didn't know anything about what the
Yeah, they were just,
park was gonna be.
they helped, instead of having our staff, they were acting on behalf of the council at that time, because we asked them to organize the meeting and try to bring the citizens together to say, okay, what do you want to see? And that's where you would fill out a card saying, I want to see this type of play equipment. I don't want to see play equipment. I want to see on the Riverwalk a boardwalk. I want to see a area to sit and reflect. I want to see a reading area. There was, I think, they got
They also had the
thousands of
pop-ups in the
right.
park to have people come out and talk about what they wanted with the presentations out there, so.
So they were doing it on behalf of the council to be the organizer of the event, not saying they were in charge of it. Mrs. Barnaby?
Well, and Mr. Mayor, I agree. It's very similar to what we did at Lewis Park, where Realize Bradenton was kind of the hands and feet of putting the event together, but they weren't in charge of making any decisions, and that's basically what happened. Because I was here in the early 2000s. One of the things that happens when you engage members of the community is it's it's kind of like if you've ever belonged to a condo association and you have a condo commando that gets involved. Sometimes a little bit of information and title can go to some people's heads. There have been many times we've had people out there as volunteers making statements on behalf of the city that they really don't have the authority to make and shouldn't be doing. But you get the bad and the good when you engage citizens, because you want people involved, you want people sharing their thoughts and their feelings, but sometimes you have individuals that speak, maybe they don't stay in their lane, I'll put it that way. They are saying things that they really don't have the authority to say, and they don't represent the city or the council.
Staying in the lane.
Thank you.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but this is an unusual circumstance that happened because Lewis Park didn't get sold or converted to a development, and this did, and they sued us over it. So I've been trying to, for 3 or 4 years now, to try to keep this calm and that things are gonna be better, and we may have opened up that wound again, and that's concerned me, because now I've had to deal with the flow off of that. But I also saw, and which concerned me, that they were trying to rent, not trying, but said they've actually got somebody for our garage space prepared to sign a lease. And I don't know that we commissioned them to do that.
Who?
Realize Braden.
Oh, no, there's nothing.
Well, they mentioned that in the downtown development. They had 2 contractors willing to pay for startups in that
No,
in that garage.
They said they have them available. They said it wasn't for free. They weren't asking if we were going.
No, I
to
didn't
go
say
for it.
free.
But again, that's the answer that Johnette said was, there was a misunderstanding that we want the garage spaces for free if we decide to do that as a council. They are not for free. They've got people that will help startups get started, and then they can go forward.
I understand
But
it,
again,
but
they're
that-
not, she didn't say that they were gonna be. It's
So
propaganda.
we've asked her to do this?
No, she didn't. She came to a meeting and spoke to us.
Okay. Well, in
Nobody's
the
asked her to do
newspaper, it kind of indicated that there was economic development that she was promoting. I don't know.
Nothing, that's what she's been promoting since day one, about possibly having those, talking before any of the council were up here except for Mr. Roth.
Well,
and
the
I,
problem
going
is
through.
that when those things are said publicly and in a newspaper, I get questions. Why didn't you contact me for that? Why didn't you do this? How come you don't know about it? And I don't want to read the newspaper to find out what we are actually doing, if we're actually doing it. So that's what concerns me, and I'd like to see it stopped.
Mr. Sanders, you said a couple of years ago that
A couple of years ago?
the Bradenton Herald prints things that say Bradenton when it's outside of the city,
That's right,
and you'd like that stopped.
right?
There's certain things in this world none of us control and none of us are doing maliciously, but we can't stop them because it is the.
Well,
and we can give information, we can get the public information out there. Outside of that, as Ms. Barnaby said, there's different areas that we don't control, and we can correct it when we find out about it, but not everything can be
Well,
that way, and not everything is a
I
conspiracy
understand.
against the city.
I understand, but for the public that doesn't know what you're talking about, I was critical of the Bradenton Herald's reporter indicating that there was a sewage spill that was accused of the headlines of Bradenton, and when actually it was the county, and it was so bad that our public works director was upset also. And it mentioned to me, and I said on the dais here, look, this wasn't Bradenton, so don't capture the headline Bradenton when it's actually county halfway down through the comments. But you wouldn't have known that if you didn't. So a lot of people just read headlines. They don't read the content, and so it says Bradenton. So you're accusing us of being bad government when that wasn't the truth. If we're guilty of something, we'll take ownership. But if we're not guilty of something, I don't want Jim to be publicly criticized, and he was concerned, and so was I.
Do you have anything further, Council?
No, you brought it up.
No, but I go back and I know what the reporter said is he doesn't write the headlines.
Well, that reporter is not here. That reporter doesn't report for us anymore, and I think that was part of the problem.
This is Coachman.
Yes. If I may just say something about the expansion, there will probably be some members of the community questioning if we're going to recognize the Angola community, the historical site that they were, so I'm just throwing that out there so you don't forget.
My intent is yes, fully, yes.
This council's intent is yes.
Yes.
Not an individual, this is a
Not
five-person
individual.
council.
Yes, yes, thank you. My turn. I cannot go without saying how great it was on Saturday to have everyone there. Keep Manatee Beautiful really is working at keeping at least the city of Bradenton or part of the county beautiful. And it was beautiful not only because it was at the site of my childhood church, it was just simply beautiful to see that many people of the community come and work together. If my back would have allowed, I would have done a lot more, but I was saving my arm for the parade that was going to happen in a few hours later. And that in itself was an experience. Councilwoman Coker and Councilwoman Barnaby and the mayor, two people decided not to participate, but they were there cheering us on because I remember seeing you. But it was definitely also another beautiful experience. I want to thank our Public Works Director. The new right turn lane on 13th Avenue West as you turn on First Street to go south is beautiful. And a lot of people are saying, it's great, oh, it's helping a lot. So just wanted you to know it's not only council that's, happy, the community as well is very happy and looks great.
Ms. Coachman?
Yes, sir.
Also, to help that matter, when we purchased the property at 13th and 9th, we're also putting a turn lane in there because of the school traffic that backs
Yes.
up and creates a nightmare when people want to turn left and can't, there's no movement there. So we're trying to correct a lot of things on 13th between 9th and 1st.
I know that's in the works. They'll probably give us a party then. I think they'll probably throw a party because that's also a really major problem. So, great things were happening last weekend, but I also will be remiss if I wouldn't say I am so happy to see Mrs. Copeland here. She's not only a former city employee, she is a really viable person and valuable person in the community, and I'm glad to see you. And last but not least, Ward 5 is alive.
Thank you. Councilwoman Coker?
Thank you. I may sound very repetitive, but I agree, the Earth Day celebration, and I think we owe a huge amount of thanks to Jennifer Hoffman at Keep Manatee Beautiful. She did a great job. She just gave us so much of a bang for our buck. While I agree with, how much, we got with all the volunteers, I think if we did it too much, it might not be quite as successful. So I know once a year we'd like it more often, but it just was a great experience. My back is still trying to come back from carrying all the mulch. But anyhow, the parade, you don't realize it until something's gone, how much you missed it, and the community spirit that I felt. I've always been on the sidelines, catching the beads, and I have so many memories with my girls, watching everybody go by, and so throwing the beads this time, it was a lot of fun, but it just reminded me, seeing all the smiles, and we have such a wonderful community, and that spirit and love. I want to thank the DeSoto people for putting it on. I can't imagine how much effort goes into putting it. But thank you for letting us be a part of it. And I definitely want to thank Fire and PD. I think they were a huge part of the success. I know getting us carried back and forth, but I haven't heard of any incidents, and I'm sure that that's because of their participation as well. And of course, also to Jim as well. They had a big project replacing a pipe over between the neighborhoods of Village Green and Point West, and they had to close down the street. It was a big project, and they got it done ahead of schedule. I don't know if they came in under budget, but they were ahead of schedule. But anyhow, thank you for that. I know we had a lot of calls about trees and everything during the whole thing, but it's great. It's done, and so I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to let everyone know that I have been receiving several phone calls and emails regarding the flooding on Riverview Boulevard West. And I've spoken with Mr. McClellan in Public Works, and there is a plan in place. It just takes money. And one of the thoughts being that if and when we get some of the stimulus money, this is a shovel-ready project, and I believe that Mr. McClellan may be bringing that forward to us. But right now, we haven't gotten any of that stimulus money yet. So let's all keep our fingers crossed. I would also like to express my deepest sympathy to the Kirscher family on the passing of Beverly Kirscher. She leaves behind 3 children, Debbie Holt, Mark Kirscher, and Eric Kirscher. Also, the DeSoto Parade was, I think, a lot of fun. I was very blessed because, yes, after helping at Earth Day, I was sore, my back and legs and stuff from the lifting and shoveling and that sort of thing. And I knew I was going to need help in the parade. And that came by one of the young ladies from Manatee High School, Ty Barclay, who is going to be participating this weekend in the regional track and field events representing Manatee High. And she is a shot putter. So I figured with that skill set, she could help with the beads, and we had a wonderful time, and I truly appreciated having her there to help because, I can kind of like do a little shuttle pass and get it maybe to somebody's feet, but she could really get them back to the back where the people were standing, and it was a lot of fun. Also today in our audience, we have Kylie Odell, who is representing Manatee High School at the Girls State program. Kylie, if I can embarrass you and ask you to stand up so everybody can see you, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. She'll be going to Girls State in Tallahassee representing Manatee High School. I've known Kylie for many, many years now. She is on the girls basketball team at Manatee High. She is a very, very good athlete. And I'm very excited that she's interested in government and is going to be going to Girls State representing Manatee High. So thank you for being here today. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Barnaby, and I'll kind of echo the sentiments while we were on Kylie Odell. I coached her sister at softball Manatee a few years back when she was a young girl running around, and her mom's a good friend, and so it's great to see not only the athletic ability, but also the academic part of it, and they got a great family, so congratulations on that, Kylie. One other thing, Manatee High School, I was fortunate enough last week to go out, and the young lady won the Charter Bright House Spectrum Sports Athlete of the Month, which there's 12 of them in the Tampa Bay area. It's not just Manatee County, it's all of Tampa Bay. They get a $1,000 scholarship, and it's for her name was Daniela, tennis player, and just started playing tennis a few years ago, and we worked to be a senior this year and a captain. So those are the fun parts of this job. I like going out and promoting our young student athletes that really do a great job and promote what's positive about this world, because there's a lot of negative, and that's very positive to see. Echo the sentiments on the Earth Day. Great day, a lot of hours. Everyone was out working hard, which was a great representation of this council and our city. We really appreciate that, and I know Katerina and KK were out there through the CRA doing great things, just working. Our police were involved, Public Works helping, and it was fun to see Keep Manatee Beautiful, church, everything, and as Glenn said, doesn't do any good to plant those plants if we can't get them water, because in this heat, so that is in the process. Look here, the parade. Once again, we don't know what we missed until we didn't have it, and I think you saw what was the best part about it being one of the first entrants in those. 140, I think they got to, which isn't our biggest, but it's darn close. And we're proud to be the city that was willing to have the first parade in Florida, if not the first parade in the country coming back. And we figured the crowd was probably about 70% of normal, which was good. It was stretched out. DeSoto did a great job in the areas where they need the fencing now. They've got it. And it's hard. It's 2.5 mile trek that you can't do fencing on both sides the whole way. Almost prohibited. But where they needed it was great. And that was great to see. And we throw a lot of beads, probably more than we should at times. But you know what? We're first because it's our city. And how do you look at a little kid and not throw it to them when they're the first ones waiting for that bead, when some of them have been waiting 2 and 3 hours? So, that's the fun part. I did try to throw it to a little kid about 3/4 of the way, but I couldn't get it over far enough where he was sitting, so Mr. Ralph.
I think I got him.
We got him. But, no, it was great. It's great to have it back. Obviously, it was very important. DeSoto did a great job, passed out. I think the reason we went so slow is because they were waiting for all the masks and the hand sanitizers to be passed out before we got to them. Because it was a long time compared to ones in the past. But,
Yes.
but it was good. Worked out perfectly. Just saw the excitement. And then I also saw, when I got off the first fire truck there, looking back at the 3 councilwomen, and they all looked exhausted. So it looked like I felt, so which was a good thing.
How gallant of you to
Yeah,
point
but
that out.
that was there. But I
were
appreciate
glowing.
that and doing it, and great job everybody being involved on that. Probably though, we know the police, fire, and others obviously do a great job through that parade, but get out at 8 o'clock Sunday morning and you don't see a piece of trash on the road.
Yeah.
And that's our sanitation and
Sorry, I
public
was
works. So
remiss.
give you guys a great job on that, because again, that's one of the things that I've always been harping on for a lot of years, is the way our city looks, and it does great. I had somebody come through on Sunday and say, I thought you had a parade last night. They couldn't even tell. So Jim passed that along, and we appreciate that. Okay, parade. This morning I was fortunate enough to go to a breakfast before the Boys and Girls Club celebrating their 75 years. We'll have a proclamation coming up soon on that, as they're kind of celebrating their Youth of the Year this morning. And obviously had to leave a little early. I know Janine was there, and I have it over at the Players, and did a great job what they do to support the community. But just unbelievable what that organization has done for our community for 75 years now. And the city was probably the biggest part of starting that in 1945 with the Kiwanis. So the city of Bradenton has been working for our community and our children for a long time, and it's great to see.
Weren't you Youth of the Year one year, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, back in 1983, I was the last Boy of the Year. It was still Boys Club at that time, and then it went to Youth of the Year after that. So that's my one claim to fame, is the last Boy of the Year, going to that. But no, and they bring that up and laugh about it a lot. But no, it's a great thing, yeah. So no, but that's that, and I've said this many times. The position I'm in today as a father, community person, council person, mayor, is because of the Boys Club, or Boys and Girls Club now. And anything we can give back to our youth and our children is what we do. And that's the most important. So I think that's everything on my list. Just keep working hard for our city and working together, and always respect the staff that we have, and work as a team, not as an individual, because that's what we are. Council is a body of 5, not a body of 1. So it's very important to keep working forward. So we appreciate what you do. And that's all I have. We'll start department heads. Sharon?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. We've got Chief McWade sitting in today for, yes, come on up.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Unfortunately, the chief couldn't make it, but I think you probably know that she's actually in Tallahassee. She was chosen as the officer of the day. She'll be in the House of Representatives, where she'll be kind of talked about and some of the great things she does in our profession. She actually was going to come and talk to you about what happened yesterday. The incident, I don't know if you know exactly what occurred, but we had 4 individuals that did several burglaries to vehicles. One of them, unfortunately, got guns and a bulletproof vest out of. It was a bondsman's car. From there, they did an armed robbery where they attacked a guy, hurt him, left. Our detectives were able to track them up to the Skyway Bridge area, where they turned and came back into the city. Palmetto started a pursuit. They hit actually 5 cars, 3 of them being police vehicles, and come to arrest one of the officers that actually chased down the subject that was wearing the vest and had a gun, is actually in the room. Officer Nuttall, good job. He didn't know I was going to say that. So great job by him. Great job by a lot of law enforcement out there that took these people into custody. They were up late last night doing search warrants and charged all 4 of them with crimes. So that's it. And the parade was fantastic for us too. We enjoyed it.
Thanks, and I'm glad no one was hurt, and you only crashed 1 car.
What's that?
You only crashed 1 squad car.
Actually, 2 squad cars.
2?
Ours, 1 Palmetto car,
Oh, okay.
and our officer was put in the hospital, but he got out. It was really, he had a surgery like a year ago. So he went to the hospital, got checked out, but he actually, I was surprised. I saw him, he came by my office this morning, just to let me know he's okay.
Yeah, I talked to the chief yesterday, and I sent her a video of that was right where the crash occurred, and it was like watching a movie.
Yeah.
It was like a screeching, and but that was real.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the officers out there were, put in positions, and I know Nuttall's been talked to a couple times about it. Can you imagine chasing somebody you thought had a gun, had a bulletproof vest on, and luckily he had dropped the gun before Nuttall took him into custody. So good job by him.
Patrick?
That started in my ward on East Side, right?
Yeah, it started, quite a few burglaries in the county, and then in the city, 200 block of 7th Street is where they did the robbery. And there,
Right.
that's when they went up to the Skyway Bridge. We thought they were going to St. Pete, but
Are they from here?
yes, they're from here. Yes, sir. Young, 13 to 17.
Yeah, I saw the ages was bad, and at some point in time, I think we need to, I've addressed it with the chief, and I think we need to have some more conversation with the council on some of this shooting at night, and I know it's happening in, well, earlier you could say where the code enforcement was, and all you have to do is go out and listen to the gunfire, and you'll see where it needs to be. Something needs to be done, and I think we need to act now, because it's almost nightly, and I read your reports every day, and it's got shot here, got shot there, got gunfire here, shot in my house, and it's all primarily in 3, 4, and 5. And I think we need to address it, and I'd make recommendations. I'd like to have recommendations from police, what we can do, because it's if you don't get a hold of this, it's only getting worse, because they think they can get away with it.
You're absolutely right. We do everything, of course, we do everything we can, but the chief has actually gotten with us because she sees the uptick. We all do. So we've met and actually started to research why and what's going on. A lot of it is social media. Kids are arguing, and then maybe they get out and get into a stolen car and they go by each other's house and start shooting it up. That's most of them is what we're seeing, unfortunately. And they're young children like this, 13, 14, 15 years old.
Right.
So, yeah, we see it, and we're doing everything. Believe me, we do everything we can to try to stop it.
Well, I'd look for recommendations from you because we need, as a city,
Yeah,
put our thumb on this.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
I'll relay that to the chief.
Councilman Roth?
Yeah, on that note, you know, the incident with the downtown, that was a once, that doesn't happen very often, so that was big
No.
press. But what does happen a lot is over in Ward 5, I checked the PD reports and the gunshots going off. I was very concerned about the one of the ones I saw last week where 16 rounds were discharged. Is that an automatic weapon?
I think it was. I know we made an arrest on that. We brought the subjects in that did that, and we made an arrest. I don't know if they sent you the follow-up report on it. If not, I'll get it for you
I
today.
just got the, but that's, you know,
Yeah.
something like that, that's usually, that tells me 16 rounds usually discharge of an automatic weapon. And
Absolutely.
and
I think it's in the report that it was, but don't hold me to that. I think it was an automatic rifle.
And that concerns me that we're now moving from single gunshots into spray shooting.
Yeah. Fortunately, we were able to identify, and believe me, we made an arrest on that case.
Okay, well, I think we need to, you know, copycats and, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I know you're taking it seriously, we need to,
Absolutely. We do see the uptick. We do.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chief McWade. And I just want to make a comment. Obviously, yesterday we saw the importance of our collaboration with all of the police departments in our Manatee County, City of Bradenton, City of Palmetto, whoever was involved, obviously. And we show the importance of our police department, and there's a lot of negativeness out there about police departments now. And I think that, you know, we did a great job. There's some rogue videos that I've seen now that are popping up on
Right.
social media that are showing what happened in a positive way. And obviously, these individuals that had bulletproof vests and guns were probably going to do more. And I think that it's a positive that we stopped them in a good way. And I think the citizens really need to realize, there may have been some police cars that were damaged. There may have been some individual cars that were damaged. But there's a lot of people that walk those streets, and we could have been in a crosswalk when they were doing it and all of that. So I think our police did a great job at doing what it is and shows the importance of, we talk about all this defunding stuff and around the country. It's not the time. You know, it's the time to educate and train and make us better, and I think that's important, and I think that's what our department is doing, and I'm proud of it. So appreciate what you guys do, and I'm proud of our chief being honored as the only chief this session
Yeah.
to get on the House floor for a day.
Yeah.
So when she called me yesterday and said, you know, I'm not going unless you tell me to go, I said, absolutely. You know, go and represent Bradenton, and it's an honor to be on that House floor today, and we're proud of her and this department, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, thank you for all your staff did and out there and stayed safe, so we appreciate that. Robin, hiding in the back?
Not too much new to report. However, now that you have the counters open and City Hall is open, my understanding is it's not to the same level of interaction that we had pre-COVID because we've gone to electronic submittals for building permits. So that's cut back a little bit on the staff interaction, but things seem to be going smoothly. Everybody's happy to be back at the office. And regarding prior comments regarding code enforcement, I think we're all on the same page. But by all means, if you have particular issues in your ward that you want to see addressed, please reach out to us so that we can begin to work with our code officers to dedicate their time to the specific issues that you're seeing. I would note that one of our code officers has been moved up to Tamara Tornay. I got to get my last names right. She's been moved up to building permit plans examiner and inspector. So we're going to be filling her position in code enforcement as quickly as possible to make sure we have full coverage throughout the city. And she'll continue with the cases that she's already established with code enforcement.
So that's a promotion within?
Yes.
That is a good succession plan, and obviously that's important to us, is hopefully we've got people that stay with us, just keep moving up and doing better for us. Mr. Sanders?
Again, thank you, and I've spoke to you about code enforcement. And we haven't had a planning director now for over a year, and so I've had to go to like Volker individually. So future forward, I'll go through the department head as I should, and but I appreciate they've held the fort together. But I'm glad you're here now, that because we've got a lot of things that needs to be done and caught up on.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Appreciate it. Mr. Jim?
Just a couple of updates from a construction standpoint. Enjoy the next couple of weeks of limited construction activity, where we have two projects starting off in mid-May. One is a water main and storm drainage improvements in the Oxford Drive area just south of Southern Parkway. And the other is the Sidewalks to School project for Manatee High School, which is mainly along 7th Avenue, but will encompass a couple of other streets, and I will be meeting with you to talk about.
I think that's been like an 8-year project, because I started.
Well,
when I first got on the council.
virtually any of those types of projects, when we're seeking the funding through there's just a process that we have to follow.
It's like an 8-year from the time the thing is, till you get the money and actually get to start it. It's crazy.
And sadly, what happens in some of those cases is we have community meetings up front. We had many meetings at the school, and enough time passes that everybody forgets that the meeting was ever held. So, but anyways, those are two projects that will be kicking off here in mid-May. Also, in regards to the Riverwalk Project, we're working with the contractor. We just saw some mock-ups of some screenings that will be put up on the construction fencing that will depict some of the renderings that the architects had prepared. So that will be up there for people to see what's going on behind the fencing, or what's coming from behind the fencing.
All right, I just, one comment, I met with some of our county folks through the Public Works Department. Several of the county commissioners in their areas, which are in the city of Bradenton, some of our thoroughfares with DOT and all that. So Jim is getting with their people, going to start working some beautification in some of the medians. And as it works through the process, we're going to help with that and get an interlocal agreement to maintain those, where the county will be maintaining at a level that's better than we are now to help out. So staffing-wise and that to work where it'll be a win-win for all of us. And that's something very important to the county now as well, because again, sometimes you can't, it could stop for 10 feet from county to city, back to county, and we're trying to get all that worked out through DOT, county, and us. So appreciate that help, Jim.
Will that include the Bray Park area that Councilman?
Over in the corner, behind the fire station. This is mostly main roads, state roads and.
So you're gonna create a bigger pile over there?
Yeah, load it up. That's a good question. I'll follow up on that, Mr.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
my
there's a
guess,
good
my
question
guess is
going right
you
now.
will see that the county may utilize that again as a construction area, because they have a construction project pending related to adding some pickleball courts out at GT Bray.
Yeah,
So
that'll be huge.
Have you surveyed that road, I think it's whatever, 12th Street that goes down to the river, by the park, by the new park?
did we survey?
14th Street, Jim.
14th Street, that goes right beside that, goes right into the river. We thought that the road continued on down to the river.
Oh, I haven't surveyed it yet, but we can get
We
that
will
taken care
do
of. Yeah.
that, see where that line is on that side.
When we looked at the plats, immediately after that, I came back and looked at the plats, and it appears to be a straight line from the eastern right-of-way line straight down to seawall.
So who will address that?
Well, we'll have to look at that here, make sure in a survey, and then we will address it when we do the park improvements with that owner to say, you know where your property line is, and we're making improvements in here. So we'll probably work a little bit with Scott to make sure that we're all clear on that. But it's pretty evident through 2 different plats where that is, with the road turning and then what goes straight ahead.
And then at the same time, inquire about the removal of some of that,
The riprap.
not the riprap, that's okay.
Concrete.
The huge tiles that are ugly, that's,
The chunks.
right. So
So that looking like private drive is not a private drive?
It appears that the western end of the Circle Drive is probably not on his property.
All right, thank you, Jim. Scott? All right, Mr. Callahan?
Nothing to report.
All right, anything else for the good?
Chief Edwards?
Yeah, I said to him, yep, yeah, he,
Well, we got a CRA meeting in almost 3 hours.
all right. Nothing for the good of the order else, we'll be adjourned, 10:29.